We've transitioned from the gym into the classroom, so hopefully everyone else has had opportunity to grab them a snack after that good exercise class. And we are very, very pleased to have our director of our local public library, Miss Jennifer, is going to tell us about Ancestry research.
Hello, everyone. I recognize some of the names here. So hi, I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the library edition of Ancestry. It is free if you have a library card, and even if you don't have a library card, when the library is open, you can access Ancestry for free from your laptop or your phone. You just have to come into the library and connect to the Wi-Fi. Right now, because of the pandemic, the library edition is available remotely, so you can actually access it from home up to June the 30th. Hopefully they're going to extend that deadline, but right now their deadline is June 30th for remote access. So I'm going to share my screen here. Give me just a second. I want to show you how you get to Ancestry from home. Okay, can y'all see my screen? Should say Google.
Yes.
Perfect. So the easiest way to get to Ancestry is just type in Pflugerville Library. Yep, I could spell library, that would be great. Mine automatically brings up Pflugerville Library Catalog because that's what I do. I search the most, but you can just type in Pflugerville Library. And it goes straight to our library webpage, but that is not the one you want. You want to go down to the second entry here where it says catalog. Click on it. And you do have to have a library card. They're free. You can request one remotely. And I'm going to give you the address for that a little bit later. But you do have to have a library card, and you just enter your card number and your password in the upper right-hand corner. And that will give you access to all of our electronic resources, which are right here on the left-hand side of your screen. So right under the orange bar that says electronic resources, they're alphabetical. Unfortunately, this program does not allow us to group them by genre. So not all of our genealogy resources are going to be together. It's going to be in alphabetical order. And Ancestry, of course, is right on top. So once you're logged in, you just click on it, and it gets you straight into the Ancestry search page. Now, the types of things that you can find on Ancestry are going to be census records, birth and death certificates, voter registration, land deeds, that sort of thing. And it's worldwide. So this is not just going to search things that are in the US. You can search other records in other countries. However, you do need to be able to read that language because not all of them have been transcribed into English. And when you're getting into some of the Asian languages, you know, they're character languages. And, you know, those date back 1,000 years, and I'm not exaggerating. Some of those date back 1,000 years, but you know, I can't read them. I don't know too many people who could, but I'm sure there are some people out there that could. Okay, so the difference between the Ancestry Library Edition and the one that you purchase is that the Library Edition doesn't have as much stuff as you're going to find in the one that you purchase. It's not going to have recent obituaries, so that's going to be obituaries from 1930 to the present, or historical newspaper, the historical newspaper archive. That's not included in this edition. The periodical source index for genealogy is not included either. But we have another database that's available for free that you can access in exactly the same way. It's called Heritage Quest. And that does have that information in it. And it also has the Freedman Bank record in it. So that's going to be in Heritage Quest. And I'm going to show you a tiny, really cool thing about Heritage Quest at the end of this. But Ancestry is not going to have it. So a lot of times when I'm doing genealogy research, I'll pull up Ancestry, but I'll pull up one of the other genealogy databases also, so that I can switch back and forth doing the same search in both databases, because they're not always going to have the same records. MyHeritage and Heritage Quest have records that you're going to find in smaller publications. A lot of times, particularly in MyHeritage, you're going to find maybe quarterly journals or smaller newspapers and that sort of thing. And in Heritage Quest, again, you're going to be able to access things like the Freedmen records. Okay. Oh, and another thing that you can't do with the library edition is you cannot save a family tree into it, because it's one login for everybody. So you wouldn't be able to create a family tree and save it within Ancestry to go back to later. You can download the template to create a family tree and save it on your own computer, but you wouldn't be able to save it into Ancestry. Okay, I'm going to go through the search menu real quick. The search menu, generally, when I'm just starting out on genealogy research and I don't have a lot of information about the person, I will go to all categories. And I do this because it literally searches all categories. So it's going to look at the census records, the birth certificates, etc. I can also narrow it down here by location. So right now I'm on the USA, but I can go to Africa, and these are the states in Africa, Asia, etc., to do research. So if you are looking for, say, your German ancestors, you would go to Europe and then into Germany to look at those records. Again, most of the records are going to be in that language. So not all of them though, but most of them are. You can also search, if you know that you're looking for a census record or a marriage certificate, you can narrow it down just from this drop-down menu. Military records are also available. I've found things like my grandfather's World War I draft card and that sort of thing in here. However, if you are looking to do extensive genealogical research into military records, I recommend using Fold3, which is another database that we have. Immigration and travel records are really cool, and the card catalog. The card catalog can be tricky. Let's go into that and take a look at it. I would, unless you know the exact title of the records that you're looking for, searching within the title field can be a little wonky. I would recommend searching within the keywords. So if I were looking for records in Louisiana, I would just, and I probably spelled it wrong, but I would just hit that and it should show me things from Louisiana. Do it that way, just it'll save you a lot of headache in the long run. Okay, so message boards on this main menu are just that. They're people who maybe are reaching out and saying, hey, I need information on this person, and they'll throw it out there on the message board and people will respond to it. The Learning Center, on the message board, the only thing that I caution is don't give out personal information ever on any of these things. Don't give your phone number or anything else on any of these, just because you don't know who you're dealing with on the other side. The Learning Center, that is going to be where you go to look at tutorials. There'll be articles written on tips on how to research female ancestors. That can be tricky. Trying to do research on African-American ancestors, also very tricky. So this is a good place to go if you're looking for tutorials or tips and tricks on how to do that sort of research. The reason why it's difficult for, particularly for those two groups, is women don't appear in the United States Census under their names until the 1850 census, I believe. Anything prior to that, so the 1840 and back, women are not going to be listed by name. They're going to be listed under their husband's name. And the same with the African Americans. They're not going to necessarily, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, they are not, prior to the 1870 census, are not going to be listed as individuals. The census, they're going to be listed as in the slave records as property. So those are why those two are tricky, but these are really good ways to go in and get some additional information. Do we have any questions so far? I don't mind being interrupted with questions.
If you're muted, you can do the Alt-P to unmute yourself.
Okay, so moving on. I had mentioned the family trees and how you can't save them into this version of Ancestry, but you can download these charts. So you can do an ancestral chart. You can keep track of your research, keep track of the people that you've spoken with, etc. And those are all very handy. You just can't save them into this program. All right, and new collections. This is cool because this is, you know, once they finish entering records, they'll pop it into the card catalog, but they'll put all the new ones in the new collections. And we've got church records dating back to 1803, which is pretty cool. They are in Spanish. Generally, it'll tell you the language that it's in. UK and Ireland find a grave index from the 1300s. So this is a really cool place just to go and see what's new. Now I will say that it's good to go back, even if you say you looked in the South Carolina death records, it's good to keep, and you didn't find anything, it's good to keep checking back because sometimes they're not completely indexed yet or they're not completely entered into the system. So it's good to go back and check and see what's been updated over the months or over the years. For those that are interested, the 1950 census will be coming out in April of 2022. So that should be available pretty quickly through Ancestry. Okay, so let's do some searches. There are a number of ways that you can search for records. I would, unless you're absolutely certain on the spellings of names and the birth years or death years or whatever information, unless you're absolutely certain, I wouldn't do anything that was exact. So say I was looking for my ancestor that was born in 1874 or thereabouts. I would not hit exact because that can often eliminate a lot of records that are actually records on your ancestor, but either have been entered incorrectly or the birth year was off when it was entered in the register or what have you. So I would not ever do exact on those. I usually like to start with a really broad search. If you focus your search too much at the beginning, you're going to miss a lot of stuff that's going to be pertinent to you. And there's a couple of ways that you can search. You can search just a direct search. So I'll do, and I'm doing this guy because he's pretty famous. I shouldn't put Douglas in there. And I already did research on him to make sure that that I wasn't going to embarrass myself in this class. So, okay, so I'm going to look at Lord Alfred Douglas, and that's all I'm going to put into my search right now. I'm not going to choose a location, nothing. I'm just, oh, I need to take 1874 out. Okay, I'm just going to put that in, and then I'm going to hit search. Okay, and you can see that it brings up a lot of records on Alfred Bruce Douglas. For those who aren't familiar, there was a big scandal between him and Oscar Wilde, who is one of my favorites. So I knew there would be a lot of records on him, a lot of court records. He did travel to the United States at some point. And it brings up the records on the guy that I was looking for. So, you know, that was a pretty straightforward search. And he was a pretty famous person, so it was a lot easier for me to find him. But let's assume that I don't know how to spell his last name. Like, I've seen records maybe that it was Douglas, maybe some records it's Douglus. So I'm not really sure, but I want to gather all of that information, and I'm not really sure about the spelling of his last name. So I'm going to use what's called a Boolean search operator. And that's, a lot of you might be familiar with that. A lot of people aren't anymore because it's not used as much when you're doing research on a computer. But a Boolean operator is basically just a little operator, like a little symbol that tells the computer that you want to find the first, say 4 or 5 letters in a name, and then whatever names show up under that, regardless if it's Douglas or Dougling or, you know, Dougold, it'll still show up. It'll bring back all of those different endings for that name. So for Lord Alfred Douglas, I'm going to put in an asterisk. And I can give you guys these Booleans. I'll give you the slides so you'll know what the different symbols do. So this asterisk is going to go out and find all of the names that start with Dougl, regardless of the ending of that name. So I'll hit Douglas. And it brings up the ones that we looked at previously. Brings up newspaper obituaries. And again, these are older obituary indexes. This is not going to be the full obituary post 1930. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that this is the guy I'm looking for, but I want to narrow that search down now. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I know he lived in England, so I'm going to click on Europe. And that's going to narrow down the location some. And then I am going to narrow it by the type of record I'm looking for. So I'm looking for a census. And then I want to narrow it down a little bit more by date. So I'm looking for a census in the 20th century, in the 1910s. So I'm going to click on that. And now it's narrowed it down to just those records that are in that location during that time period. I'll let you take a look at that. Okay. So it's showing me a lot of registers, which is fine. What I really want is a census. I want a census from 1911. And you can see down here, this is page 1 of 600 pages. So I do want to narrow that down because I do not want to slog through 622 pages. So I really just want the census. So I'm going to look over here and see what they have on that. And I'm going to narrow it to the United Kingdom. And it shows you all of the different records that I could choose, but what I wanted was the census. So here it is. And I'm going to click on that. And it shows me the Alfred Douglases in 1911 in England and where they were living. And a lot of times it'll show you who their neighbors were. So let me Just choose one randomly. I'm gonna view the record. And it shows me all of the people that are in the household. And you can make assumptions, this is a son or a daughter, but you really don't have to, because if you go into the actual record, which you can view a lot of times, not all of them are going to have the actual record. You can see the relation to the head of household. So son, daughter, servant. So not all of them were related. This is a servant. You can also find things in these records of like occupation. So you can, right under here, personal occupation, you'll see this person was a railway clerk. This one was a watchmaker. This one was still in school. That's pretty cool information you get off of a lot of those censuses. Not all of them have this information. Like I said, the 1840 census isn't going to list necessarily wives or children. It's just going to say son or daughter. It's not going to say their names. But with Ancestry, and this is my favorite part, on the right-hand side, it gives you suggested records. So these are all going to be records that for some reason or another, Ancestry believes are connected to this Alfred Robson Douglas. War graves, that's very sad. I wonder if he died in 1918 during the war. And he died in 1917. So then I can make the assumption, that he was killed in action during World War I. And it may even tell me in the actual record. Let's see. Douglas, okay. Killed in action with submarine in Atlantic, 18th of September, 1917, age 24, son of Eleanor Douglas. So this is a huge amount of genealogy information right here that I've gotten just from those suggested records on this kid. When you are in the actual record, you can click on any of the household members and it's going to change it to their name and their connected records over here. So that's pretty handy also. That's one of the newer features, I guess. I mean, it's probably not that new, but I really appreciate that one because it saves a lot of slogging around and going back and forth to try and figure out information. You can print these records and you can download them and save them to your own computer, or you can email them to yourself. So you can save them that way. You wouldn't be able to save your search results in the Ancestry Library Edition because, again, it is a communal login and it's not going to be personalized to you. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Okay, so this was the servant. When we looked at the original record, that was a servant. So I'm going to take a look at her record. Shows me her occupation, her birthplace, etc. But it doesn't show me any other records on her. So what I would do in that case is I would probably look at the, this is the 1911 English census. I would look at the previous census and see if she's working there at that time and try and get information on her that way. Unfortunately, again, when you're talking about servants or slaves or people who may have worked for that family or lived with that family, it could be aunts or cousins. It's a little bit harder because particularly if you had a case where the maiden aunt was, sort of going from one relative to the other, or in the case of my own family where the kids were parceled out sometimes, to other family members because of any number of things, illness, or they couldn't afford them or whatever. So they would be sent off to other relatives. So then you get into some very sticky genealogy, and you have to start making connections and some hypotheses about that ancestor, and start looking at things like the neighbors who are in the same area. A lot of times when you go into a census record, this probably isn't the best example because this is a British census and I'm not as familiar with those, but often in the US censuses, you will see the family, but then you'll see their neighbors listed on the same page. Look for those neighbors on the same page, see if you recognize any of the names, because families often would live close by. And you might see the children showing up one census with this group of family members, but in the next census, they're going to be with a different group. And again, that's because of a number of reasons. The kids could be sort of farmed out. Okay. So if y'all don't have any questions on Ancestry so far, I want to show you something that's really cool. And you've probably seen this, but I just love it so much that I'm going to show it to you. And it's called My Heritage Deep Nostalgia. And this is, we do have My Heritage in the library, and you can go to our catalog and search My Heritage. But this part of it is not included. This is a free app that My Heritage has put out there. You do have to sign up for it, but it doesn't cost you anything. I always caution people when they're signing up for things, whether it's free or not, that you make sure you look at the privacy policy. That's just good practice. But this is super cool. So I'm going to show you My Heritage Deep Nostalgia. I actually do have an account with them. Says I'm not logged in, but I'll show you what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is upload a photo that I have on my desktop. And this is the guy that I was searching for, Lord Alfred Douglas. And it's going to prompt me to sign up for this app. Again, it doesn't cost anything, but you know, that's all you. I will sign in if hopefully I remember what my login is. Ooh, first time and I got it. Okay, so I've uploaded my photo and now it's working its magic. And you can do this with your ancestors' photos. I just think it's super cool.
Oh, okay.
And what it does is it uses artificial intelligence to animate that photo. So you could kind of get an idea of what your ancestor would have looked like if they were, if you could see them, you know, moving in front of you. I think it's really interesting that a computer program can get something that it looks very natural for what it is. You know, a lot of times it's very stilted. It's really cool. So you can do this and you can save this and download it and send it to other people. It's all free.
That is really fabulous.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I did it for my father. My father passed, well, I did it for my mother of my father. He passed away about 6 years ago. And so I animated an old photo of him for my mother and she liked it a lot. So, but it's super easy to do. And then you just save the file. You can do it with paintings too. It's very, it's just such a cool thing. And a little bit creepy, but very cool. Okay, so that is all I have on Ancestry. Okay. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. If you'd like to hear more about some of the other genealogy databases that we have, I can answer that too. I will tell you one thing. There is a really great free resource called Family Search, and it's just familysearch.org. You do have to create an account. It is through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Just again, you know, keep track of privacy policies, but it's completely free. And a lot of times I will use that in conjunction with Ancestry, and I'll be doing searches on both at the same time, because I find that sometimes Family Search is easier to use, but maybe doesn't have the record that I'm looking for, but it'll tell me that this record is available in Ancestry or on Find a Grave. So then I can just go over to that other resource, use the same search terms that I used in Family Search, and pull that record up.
Yeah, that's a great resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us when you might start classes up at the library again on Ancestry? They were good classes.
If we're not able to do it here over the summer, then I'll probably start doing online classes for genealogy. Right now, once we get into stage 2, we're going to start letting people come into the library by appointment. But as far as programs go, probably not until we're in a stage 1 because of the level of social distancing we have to do. We had to use a lot of our classroom space to store the furniture so that we could encourage people to social distance. So once all of that is over, we'll do in-person classes again, but I am definitely considering doing them online.
Okay.
Mhm.
Jennifer,
Other-
a lot of the people that may be interested a little bit in the Pflugerville history, the Pfluger family has a tremendous, we call it the Pfluger book. It's a history book, been kept up for years and years. And you can purchase it. It's not online.
No, it's not online. We do have a copy at the library that you can check out. And we do have a digital archive of local history that's free for anybody to look at. You can just Google Pflugerville Digital History Project and it'll come up. There are photographs, documents, records, that sort of thing in there.
Some years ago, you guys, you had actually been my instructor on how to use Kindles and readers. You envision that those could be retaught to the folks?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. Also, you can, even now, you can call the library and we'll walk you through using your Kindle to download books or to access things on the internet. We'll walk you through it.
Super.
Library is very, very good.
This
We're
is-
lucky to have such a great library.
Thank you. We have an awesome staff here, multi-talented folks doing ESL classes online right now. Some of our staff are doing that. And we have a number of programs online where you can register and we'll give you the materials for the craft, whatever craft it is. It could be watercolor painting or laser cutter craft or something like that. And they are available online. You can sign up, register for it to get the kit, but you don't have to. And then the videos are made available on demand. So even if the class has finished and you missed it, you can go back and look at it later.
Oh, okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
We have been doing a craft Thursday, but the virus, so yeah, for those that have that urge, we'll look into that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We give those kits out. Once you've registered, we give them out curbside. So we'll say kits will be available, like Monday the 15th through Friday the 19th or whatever. And then you would just come back by during that time and give us your last name and tell us what you registered for. We'll bring the kit out to you. And then the following week is generally when the program is.
Are the mobile hotspot devices, are they still available for checkout?
They're available. And also now you can check out a laptop bundle. And so that's going to be checking out a laptop with the mobile device if you need it. If you don't, you can just check out either the laptop or the hotspot.
Okay.
Mhm. And we have free Wi-Fi also in the parking lot. So, and our courtyard is open. So you can come and use that anytime. The courtyard's open only when we're doing curbside, but obviously you can use the parking lot at any time to access the internet for free. You know, you can charge your equipment out. We have plugs outside on the building. You can charge them. We don't care.
That is great information to share.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the courtyard has shade and it has tables and chairs and you can sit there and use it.
Well, I think we learned a lot. We've got a lot that we can discuss and move forward and share with each other. Let's give Jennifer a nice round of applause. Thank you so very, very much. Really
Well, thank you for having me.
appreciate all your efforts and what you've done to raise the standard of our library.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I had a lot of help from the community and staff.